Hello and welcome to episode 50 of the She.Must.Knit podcast. My name is Erin and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. Episode 50, guys, can you believe it? I've done this 50 times and even more amazing, you have watched 50 times. So thank you so much. I hope for 50 more. It's been so much fun. But yeah, how was your week? We've had a pretty good week. I mentioned last episode that it is March break this week. Avery is not home right now. She has gone off to Grandma's and she is having her sleepover. Every March break she has a nice sleepover at Grandma's for 1 or 2 nights. But earlier this week we did end up doing a few things. 1 week is not a huge amount of time to do lots and lots of activities, especially with the time of year. Our weather is really kind of poopy right now. Like this past 2 days have been very rainy, very gray, very dreary as we are transitioning from full-on winter weather to kind of more spring-like weather. So earlier this week we did some library trips. She did a cooking class for kids that was focused around natural green foods because of St. Patrick's Day coming up, and she had a pretty good time with that. I wasn't sure how she would do because she can be a picky eater, and Mom, I'm sure you're watching this going, can be a picky eater? She's totally a picky eater. She is getting better. But they did things like a pizza where they used spinach, the water from steamed spinach to make the dough green, and then it was like a pesto and mozzarella cheese. They did protein donuts where it was colored by like a super green type powder. They did a smoothie. They did what did they do? Oh, a tzatziki sauce with cucumbers, some avocado, like a guacamole with avocados. So I think she really enjoyed the experience because the instructor had the kids help with every step and every recipe. So she was like right in there. She got to like slice some of the cucumbers with a little slicer thing, and she got to add some stuff to the donut mix, and they all got to watch the blender how to make the smoothies. And she tried everything, and I think she liked the donuts. I had to finish the pizza because of the pesto. I knew she wouldn't like the pesto. I think pesto is kind of a yeah, you either like pesto or yeah, no, but she did try it. And then actually she was one of the only children who actually finished her smoothie. A lot of them just were not into the smoothie. But she actually finished her smoothie, so that was good. But that was a fun day. And then otherwise, we've just been doing errands here and there where we can. We've been doing lots of crafts. And yeah, like I said, she is at Grandma's now, so I have a day or two to get some things done because other than crafting, this has not been a productive week for work. I really need like focused alone time to get work done. But I have a lot of stuff on this table to share with you. What do I have for you today? I have 2 finished projects. One you may be anticipating. The other one is completely new and unplanned. I have some new project. One is a new cast on that I talked about last week. The other one is an old project. Well, actually, it's not an old project. It's a project that you've seen in recent weeks that has now turned into a new project. If you want to take a moment and go down to the comments below and put your guess in which project I have redone, do that. But yeah, so a project I had been working on has now turned into a new project. And then I have progress on 2 projects that I've been showing over the past couple weeks. I've made some really good progress on them. This is a chat week, so at the end of the episode I have another 10 random facts for you, so that will be fun. So yeah, let's just get started. I am going to have a quick sip of my coffee. I've got key lime pie again. This is one of my favorites that I am using up, and then we're going to get right into my project. So I am going to start with the finished project that I had not planned to make, but it was relatively quick. It didn't take too much time away from my other things. So when Avery came home last Friday from school, there was a request for the kids to be bringing in an extra set of headphones for when they do, I guess they do like computer lab work or something like that. They go into where the computers are and they're working on either their creative writing or something. They're doing something, and I guess each kid needs headphones, and they've asked if we have extra headphones at home to send them in. We did not, so we had to go out. I just went to the local dollar store because I'm not getting fancy headphones for school. And she does have some that she uses at home, but those are staying at home. So we went to the dollar store. We picked out some just cheap, will work for what they need headphones, and then I decided to not only personalize them a little bit so that they would stand out as being hers. She would know which ones were hers if they kind of got mixed up. But also, if you've had headphones, yeah, the cord is kind of a nightmare, and it gets all tangled up, especially with cheaper headphones. So I decided I was going to make a cord cozy, and that is what I did. So here are the headphones here is the cord, and you can see that I have kind of attached a cord sweater for her headphones. I know I've seen different projects like this where you do an I-cord around the cord. I just didn't, projects like this that are very utilitarian, I like to pick the fastest way to get them done, to get the result I want, versus the most aesthetically pleasing. So I think it would have looked more even, it might have had a nicer finish if I had done an I-cord, but I also think that would have taken 3, 4, 5 times as long, so I decided to just do crochet. So all I needed to do was to do a little chain of like 4 stitches, and then loop. I started down here at the little plug end. I looped those 4 or 5 stitches around the cord, joined them, and then I just worked in a spiral all the way up the cord to where it split. So I went right up to where it split here. So that way, when she's using it and she puts it on, like, this part is not going to get tangled. All the part that would have gotten tangled is now covered, and yeah, it's not going to get tangled. So it took me about 2 afternoons, I would say, to get everything done. The yarn is just some fingering that I found. It was just a little mini that I think I'd gotten in a mini swap. It was in my basket of just random like mini skeins that I can use for my mini projects. And I thought she would like this one because it was like a full rainbow. I was kind of hoping to find something that was like striping, but I think even if I had used a striping yarn, the stripes would have been very long anyway because of such a small diameter. But I like how this one was a rainbow, and I was able to get through the entire rainbow going up the cord. I was able to use up almost the whole mini. As I was getting to the top here, it was going back to the color that I started with, so I was able to get a full rainbow repeat. And then also, I don't know if you can notice, but there is like a sparkle in there too. So sparkle, rainbow, I knew that was totally Avery. And then also we talked about maybe doing some decoration on this part of the headphone just to kind of jazz it up a little bit. I know she said some of the other kids have like character headphones and like really cool headphones. And so yeah, I think we're going to try and just maybe put some gems or something, some stickers, and then I have like a sealant that will just kind of make that all nice and secure, just to kind of personalize these up. And these will be very obvious if she leaves these lying around, she will know this is hers. She will probably be the only child that has headphones with its own hand crocheted little sweater cozy. To go along with that, I know she had said some of the kids had little pouches for their headphones, and so I decided, you know what, why not? I've got fabric. We all know I've got fabric. I've got the stash among stashes. So I decided to go down and see what I can find, and I found this leftover scrap. So this is a little bit too small for what I would use for a bag, unless I did something like this where I do a coordinating fabric. But I only had this one little piece left of this rainbow unicorns, and I thought I was able to find this accent fabric. And so yeah, I made a little pouch for the headphones, and I lined it with some rainbow fleece. So this is nice and soft. Not that I'm really worried about, you know, I'm not really worried about those headphones getting destroyed or anything, but I just thought it might be nice to have a softer lining, something with a little bit more squish inside, just in case, who knows. But yeah, so that is the project that I was not planning on making, and again, it took about 2 days, but still, I think it's going to be really cute. She hasn't seen them finished yet. She hasn't seen a bag. I made that yesterday, so that will be nice when she gets home after her sleepover to see how that all turned out. The next finished object I have is one that you are probably anticipating, and if you follow me on Instagram, you will have already seen because I already made my monthly post. But I finished my March Desert Vista Dyeworks socks, and I finished these probably a couple of days ago, like maybe at least 5 days ago, maybe on the 10th I finished them. So not the record for socks overall. When I was doing the challenge last year, my record for finishing a pair of my monthly socks was 4 days, but this is certainly the fastest that I have finished them this year because I'm working on other things. As long as I finish them by the end of the month, I'm happy with that. I don't need to finish them in a super short amount of time. But I finished these in like 10 days, 8 or 10 days, I don't know, I'll have to look. But the pattern was just so enjoyable, and considering it's nothing overly exciting, I just really enjoyed working on these socks. So again, the pattern that I used is Hattu, the color that I used is Edward Scissorhands, and then also I always do my socks, almost always, my preference is 2mm needles. With this pattern, this is a top-down pattern. I started with just a regular long tail cast on. I leave spaces between my stitches as I'm casting on. I find that helps with keeping the edge nice and stretchy. I knit 2 rows back and forth in rib before joining. That just makes it easier for me to join in the round after. And then this pattern was just a whole leg of rib, and then you start setting up for some increases here. And then once you're done that, you start working back here with a heel turn. I mentioned last week how the pattern has you use short rows with double stitches, which I think are like the twin stitches used in the Fish Lips Kiss heel, if you're familiar with that. That is only done with this little turn. So I use German short rows instead, and you're only doing those in this tiny little turn, and then once you start going down this way to join it, you join back in the round around here. So from here to here, you're actually just working back and forth. It's another technique that is often used in socks, where you work to the gap, you knit 2 together, turn, and then you slip 1, and then work to the next gap, purl 2 together, turn, slip 1. That technique, that's what you're doing here. So you're only doing like the double stitches or German short rows in this little turn here. So with both of these socks, I ended up doing something a little different with the heels. You might be able to see that I did my usual thing where after finishing the first sock, I think this was the first sock over here, I rewound the cake to go in the opposite direction so that the stripes are going in the opposite way for the second sock. So for the first sock, once I finished the heel and I got back to where I was joining the round, I was almost where the stripe sequence would have continued, but not quite. So I did end up breaking the yarn here and rejoining where the sequence continued so that I would have a smooth transition. It only ended up being a very tiny little bit of yarn, so that was fine. So I only had to break the yarn once with this one. With the second sock, after I joined in the round, I was back at the color that I left off at, and you might notice that this stripe is slightly thicker, but only just slightly, and I decided not to break the yarn, just to keep going. So I was able to knit this sock from top to bottom with the yarn, and the striping sequence remained intact. I have tried these on. I find these really, really comfortable. I think these would be a really nice fit on a lot of feet, just because you've got the rib going around the ankle area, you've got the increases at the top here, and yeah, I just found that there was no one area that had to fit so specifically that if you were off, the fit would be off. So I'm really happy with these, and I do plan on, once I get all my gift socks done for the year, I want to make a set, I want to make a pair of these for myself. So I will be using this pattern again. So the next projects I have to share with you are the other pairs of socks that I am currently working on. Now that I have my monthly socks done and I cannot start my next pair until the 1st of April, I've been working on some of my other pairs. Last week I showed you a skein of yarn, and I said that I was going to be casting that on for Dennis for one of his next pairs. One of my bingo goals this year is to make Dennis 4 pairs of socks, at least 4 pairs of socks, and so I was going to start one of those. That has changed slightly. and I will explain why. So this was the yarn that I showed you. It was a Lang yarn that I picked up at one of the yarn crawls that I've done over the last 2 years. When I went to reach into the middle of this ball and get it started, I found one of these. Are you familiar with these little guys? These are basically just nylon reinforcement thread that you can knit together with the sock yarn if there are areas that need extra strength. And as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm still obviously knitting a pair of socks with these, but instead of making them for Dennis, I am going to make them for one of my brothers who I have yet to make a pair for. I think the only brother I've made was the Edward Scissorhands, or I'm going to give those to my brother Owen. My littlest, youngest brother, I think these are going to be for him. I think he'll like these colors, and also I have come to learn that he has a very aggressive big toe that tends to need breathing room with his socks and will poke its way out of most of his socks. And I thought this might be the perfect application for this. So if I make him some socks, once I get down to the toe area, I can knit that together with the yarn. I mean, the Lang yarn is already a workhorse yarn, but if I did the toes with the 2 strands together, it would be even an extra strong toe. So these are now going to be for my brother. And I have pulled another pattern out of my library. So one of my goals this year is to use at least 10 patterns that I acquired before 2019. And so I went into my Ravelry library search. I looked for the socks that were already in my library, and I found a pattern that I purchased back in 2013. I think it was part of you know, the holiday gift along that a lot of the indie designers do. I think I bought it as part of that in 2013, and I have not used it since. So that is money I spent then that I want to make use of. So this pattern is called Scott Base, and it is a very simple slip stitch pattern. I do think it would probably be better suited for a semi-solid or even a speckle or even a variegated, because the slip stitches would really bring out the pops of color. I'm using this with a striping yarn, and again, it's just because I want to use patterns that I already have, and I wanted something, I didn't want to do a plain sock, but I wanted something that was going to be easy to memorize, easy to take along with me, and not annoy my brain. And this pattern does do that. So I'm hoping you can kind of see the texture there. It's a very easy 2-row pattern. So basically on one row you are doing the slip stitch pattern. That was very easy to memorize, and then the second row you are just knitting. So I have been able to pick this up and work on it without referring to the pattern after I got a couple of rows done, and I am liking the texture. I would absolutely consider doing this pattern again with another yarn and just see how it plays with different dyeing techniques. Like I said, I think if you were using a yarn that had little speckles and pops of color, when you're doing these little slip stitches, it would really bring those out. So I'm enjoying these so far. I have not measured them. I don't know how far I've got. I do like to do the cuffs of my top-down socks, well, toe up too. The cuffs of my socks I like to be about 6 inches before I start any kind of heel work. I haven't looked at the pattern to see what kind of heel it uses, but I have a feeling that it is a heel flap and gusset. I'm considering trying the heel construction that was used in the jangle socks that I did for February, I think it was February, my February monthly socks. I think I did the jangles pattern, and it used an interesting heel technique where you're building through with increases in the heel. And then doing a turn and such, so that you're not picking up stitches, but it still gives a nice fit for the heel. So I'm thinking of trying to see if I can apply that heel construction to these socks. I think it will work very well because the heels, all the heel stuff in that pattern is done at the back, so I will be able to maintain this stitch pattern on the front of the sock. So that's what I'm thinking of doing right now. This is how far I've gotten. I'm really enjoying these. I'm going to continue working on these until for the rest of the month, and then probably when the beginning of April comes, I will focus again on my monthly socks, and we'll just finish these as we go. But I mean, it's only the middle of March. It's March 15th, so I still have 2 weeks to work on this pair and then my next pair. So the next pair of socks I have are the ones that were previously a different project and are now a different project. Did you guess? Did you make your comment and guess which project this was? I have restarted my Lots of Socks. I showed these, I think, about 2 weeks ago, and I had put them on my my March goals for the month to finish this pair by the end of the month. And I had left off on the first sock. I had done the heel. I was working down the foot. And yeah, I was going to try and push myself to finish these socks. Well, over this past week, every time I sat down, I was like, oh, what should I work on? I was like, oh, Erin, you should really work on those Lots of socks. You're on the foot, just push through. The pattern is very easy. You can do it very simply. I was like, just sit down, put on a podcast or something, and just work on those socks. And every time I told myself to work on those socks, my inner toddler came out, and I was just like, no, I don't wanna. And I would find something else. So I finally sat down with myself this week, and I was like, okay, look, you know you don't like color work socks. Like, it's just not my thing. I really love the patterns. I love the look of them. I get drawn in by how beautifully they're designed and the overall effect of them. But I just don't enjoy working on them. And you guys, okay, next time I show a color work sock that I'm gonna do, remind me, say, you're not going to be happy, in a couple of weeks you're not going to be happy, you're going to be redoing it or frogging it or whatever. Remind me, because I always get drawn in. But anyway, I finally decided to frog these socks, and I think what held me off to begin with, and just why I was telling myself to just push through, is that I had already finished like more than half of the first sock. And because they're color work and they were mosaic knitting and the yarns were all intertwined, I was like, oh, it's going to be such a bother to undo the sock. I was working with a sock blank. You know, it's going to be, I might as well just finish the sock instead of ripping it out. When in actuality, like, I knew if I just sat down and did it, it's going to take way less time to frog the sock and do something with it that I'm enjoying than to sit through and make myself finish not only that sock. I think if that had been my second sock, I would have pushed through, but because it was still my first sock, I was like, no, we're just going to start over. So that's what I did. One evening, I just put on a podcast and I undid everything. Here's the sock blank and here's the main yarn. And I think the other reason that I wanted to restart is that I really actually do like these yarns together. I like how this sock blank looks with the semi-tonal. And if you'll remember, originally I was going to be making these socks for myself because I have a lot in my wardrobe that this would complement. I do like, when I can, to wear socks that kind of, you know, coordinate with what I'm wearing in some way. And I do have outfits that have this color. And then when I was doing the colorwork sock, because of the mosaic stitching, because it ended up being a little tighter, it wasn't going to fit me the way I liked, and so I decided I was going to gift them to my brother's girlfriend. And by redoing them, they can be for me again. So this is what I've decided to do. I ripped back all the way to the cuff. I saved the cuff that I had started before. And I've decided to microstripe them. So something that I've been hearing so many different podcasts talk about is helical knitting. And it's basically a way of knitting with two yarns in the round where you don't get any like color jogs, so any little blips of where the colors are starting and stopping. And if you'll look all the way around there, you cannot tell where it starts. Now you can see from my yarn here that this is the beginning of the round here, but there's no color jogs there. It's just a continuous spiral, because when you're knitting in the round, that's what you're doing. You're not knitting in rows back and forth, you're knitting in a spiral all the way around. And I know a lot of people have been using this technique for alternating skeins, if they're doing a sweater, if they're doing their sleeves, just so that they're blending maybe two different dye lots together. I've been hearing it all over the place, so I was like, you know what? All right, let's look into this. I think this would be a really good application for helical knitting, because I can do these microstripes with these two different yarns, and it will be nice and simple. It'll be a really nice, visually pleasant effect, and I'll be able to continue with the sock blank, because that was one of my goals as well. I didn't want to completely abandon this project, because one of my goals this year is to use 3 sock blanks from my stash, and this was going to work for that square. So I didn't want to just abandon this project completely. So I am pretty pleased. I ended up looking on YouTube for a bunch of different videos just to kind of explain it. And really, when you're only doing 2-color helical knitting, it is the easiest thing ever. You're basically just, when you work around with one color, and when you get to the other color, you just pick it up and work with that color without crossing them. That's the main thing, is you do not want them to cross, which is perfect for me because I hate crossing yarns. I hate any kind of like color catching and all that. So you just make sure that they are not crossed, and then you do the round with the next color, make sure they're not crossed, do the round with the next color, and you get this really, really nice micro stripe effect. I will link a video below that I found that I liked because it was very short, it was very concise. She explained some of the other applications where you would want to use this technique, and then she also explained how to do it with 2 colors, and then how you would also do it if you were doing more than 2 colors. Because if you're doing the helical knitting with more than 2 colors, you set things up a little differently. So she explained that as well. So I will link to that video that I found below, but otherwise, if you're doing just the 2 colors, it's super simple. You're just knitting 1 round with each color, not crossing them. So I am very happy with how these are looking. I've actually had to put this project down to work on other things, which I think is a good sign. So instead of trying to convince myself to work on something, I've wanted to work on something and I've had to put it down to kind of spread out my progress on other things. So yeah, this is this project, and I am really happy with how that is going. The next thing I am going to show you is a project. I think I showed it to you last week as well, and I have made more progress on it. This is my Taste of Fall sweater that I am making with some Lion Brand yarn that has been in my stash for 2 years. The balls are rather large, and I just want to regain the space back. So this is the yarn that I'm using here. It's the Wool Ease Thick and Quick bonus bundles, so they're quite big. You can see this is the one that I'm working on right now, so they are huge. And this is the color Abalone. So the reason I like this and the reason I bought it is because it's this beautiful gray with all of these little jewel tone pops. And I've been making a sweater with it. I've been attempting to make a sweater with it. And it's huge. It's become quite the bear to work on because it's so big. The yarn is so heavy. I've got to the point, so last week I showed it to you. I moved up my little happy emoji there. This is where I was last week. I was right here. So I have worked on it and I've added all of this to the chart. And then I'm also at the point now where I have split for the front and back. So that is what I've split my stitches. You can see the gap there with that marker. I am working on the back only now. So I just have to go back and forth following the chart pattern. And because it's the back, there's not a lot of shaping to do for this. I just have to work up basically until it gets to the top. There's a little bit of, casting off for the shoulders. There's a little bit of casting off for the back of the neck. But then otherwise, that's it. And then I will be going to the front doing the same thing. But because it is more of a scoop neck, I will probably be doing some neck shaping a little bit lower. So that's where I'm going with this. And I'll be honest with you, I've been having some mixed, like, look at this, oh my goodness, it's so big. I've been having some mixed feelings about this project. When I was getting close to where the pattern was telling me to split the front and the back, I've put it on a long double cord so that I could try it on and just see if it was going to hit the length that I wanted to, how is the fit going. And going into this, I knew that this was going to be an oversized sweater. Like, this is not supposed to be a fitted sweater. However, I do tend to prefer fitted garments. I don't wear a lot of oversized things. But I really wanted to use this yarn, and like, because it's so bulky, like, I knew it wasn't going to lend itself to a very fitted garment. So I knew going in this was going to be an oversized garment. And then even with putting it on the extra needles and trying it on, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so big. It's going to be so big. So the pattern, I was only supposed to do 2 sets of decreases. As I got up towards my upper bust, I did an extra set of decreases just to try and bring it in a little bit more. And you know what, we're just going to have to see. It's really hard without the structure of the upper body, like without the shoulders being attached, without the sleeves being put in, without all that finishing. It's really hard to get an accurate representation of how it's going to fit. So I don't want to make any judgments too soon saying, oh, it's going to end up being like this, I'm not going to like it, or whatever. So I'm just going to push on. I'm going to finish at least the front and the back and join the shoulders, because then I think you're supposed to knit the sleeves separately and then sew those in. But what I'll probably do is just pick up around the sleeve hole and knit out. And I am going to make sure that the sleeves are more fitted, because I do find if you're doing an oversized garment, if the sleeves fit you quite nicely, it doesn't have that same kind of sloppy big look. It looks like it fits you better. It's just the body is it's more oversized. So I am going to pick up around the sleeve area and knit the sleeves down, make sure that the sleeves fit me very well. And then we're just going to have to revisit as we go and just see if I can make this work. I don't intend this to be a garment that I wear out. Like this is supposed to just be a at home, stay warm. We do tend to keep our heat on the lower end, so there are some days where I'm cold and I want to warm up. So this is where the sweater will find its place. So it doesn't have to be the most flattering, fashionable garment, and I have to remind myself of that. So we'll just have to see. This project, we're just going to have to see. Hopefully next week there will be a little bit more progress on it. I'll have a little bit more clarity of what direction it is going, and yeah, we'll have to see what is going to happen with this garment. So the final project that I have to share with you that I have been working on is my granny stripe blanket, and I have been able to cross off a box on my bingo card. So if you'll remember, the last time I showed this, I had a look, and it was in the middle of February, so it was about a month ago. My goal for my bingo card this year was to use up all the scraps that I had in my granny stripe basket. So this is where all the yarns go that are supposed to go in my granny stripe blanket, was to use all the yarns from 2018 or earlier, get those in the blanket. And I did. Look, that is an empty basket. So the only thing is this sock blanket that is just black, and I used that to, I put a row in that at the end of each year so that there's kind of like a visual mark of how much I got done in a year. So that is the only yarn that is left in this basket. Now I can put the little bits and bobs that I've been putting aside from this year, I can now put those in the basket. So to give you an idea of how much I've been able to add to the blanket, I did find where I left off last time I showed this to you, and it's right where that little fishbowl stitch marker is. And I have added, so watch where the fishy is. So where is he? There he is. I have added all of this. So there's the fishy down there. I have added all of this to the blanket. And this blanket, I've mentioned before, is quite wide. When I started it, I cast on, or not cast on, I chained enough stitches for this to be to fit a queen size bed. So it is quite wide. So I think to do all that, I think that's pretty good in the couple of weeks that I've been working on it. I actually went up and I put this on the bed in our guest room because it is a queen. I took a picture. I will put that in here so that you can see how it is looking size-wise, because it's very difficult to see, especially working on it. As I'm working on it, it just feels like, you know, this project in my lap. But when you spread it out, I'm like, whoa, like I'm making really good progress on this project. Like I don't feel like I have that much more to go. Like I don't feel like there's years worth left to finish this blanket. Like I think it looks like it's at least halfway, or maybe a little bit over halfway done, depending on how much I want it to hang over the bottom of the bed. There's enough room to hang over the sides, but how much I want it to hang over the bottom, it's getting there. It's getting there, guys. So I'm gonna see how much I can get done by the time December rolls around. I've mentioned before that I like to work on this as part of my Advent project, and this coming year, this is the only thing I'm going to do for my Advent project. I currently have 3 Advent swaps that I'm doing, and so I will be getting about 75 new minis to add into my blanket. And in working on this over the past couple of weeks, I know that I can easily put in 3 stripes a day. It's not difficult for me to add 3 stripes, so I will be able to put in each mini for each of the days of Advent, no problem, into the blanket. And I'm not taking on any other Advent projects, because I found that this past Christmas I wanted to do too many things and I couldn't do them all in a day, and then I got behind, and then it's just not as enjoyable. So the Advent, my granny stripe is the only thing I'm going to be working on for Advent, and the Advent swaps that I'm doing will be the perfect amount for that. So for the rest of the year, I'm just going to be focusing on, as I finish projects that use fingering weight yarn, and as I have little extras, I will be adding those as I go, so that come December, I will be all set for my Advent projects. It is quite possible by the time we get to the end of this year, and by the time I add in my Advent minis, that this blanket will be big enough to be like a full-size blanket on the bed. Who knows? And then I can start another one, right? Right. So that's the progress that I've made on that, and I'm just really, really enjoying how it is looking. I really like how the colors are all kind of blending. I really like, I think I mentioned last time how I've learned that I don't like using the same color in 2 rows. I prefer it to be 1 row, so I will break a yarn if I get to the end and there's leftovers. I'll put it back in the basket and just use it in another time. But I'm really liking how it is looking. So that is all the projects that I have for you this week. To finish off the episode, because this is a sit and chat week, I have another 10 random facts for you. I did this a couple of weeks ago. I got the idea from Steph over at Knitting Samurai and her guys. She did this a couple of episodes ago. I thought it was a really neat idea. A couple of episodes back, I did another 10 random facts, and today I'm going to do another 10. I'm just going to throw in 10 here and there when there's a week that it kind of fits in. And I did want to also mention for the next chat week, so next week is going to be a collection week, but the week after is going to be another kind of sit and chat week. I was thinking of doing kind of like a little makeup mashup where I talk about some of the things that I have learned. I've mentioned before that this past year, so about a year ago, I got back into the whole makeup world after approximately like a 10-year hiatus, and oh my goodness, so much has changed, and I am learning so many different things. Beauty YouTube is a whole other place, but I've learned lots of techniques. I've learned about lots of products that I think are really, really awesome. I've learned about some websites that I really, really like. So I thought next week I would just do like a little makeup chat. So if there's anything that you guys are curious about, let me know below. And yeah, maybe I can add that to what I have already found that I want to share. So this week is just another 10 random facts. And again, if you want to add another little random fact about yourself, feel free. Or I might have some specific questions for you as we go along. So my first random fact for you, and really this isn't very random. I'm pretty sure most of you would be able to guess this, especially if you know me. But I would consider myself 100% a cat person. I don't dislike dogs. If you have dogs, they're great. I can go to friends' houses who have dogs, and it's just like, you know, nice dogs, cool, you know, I'll pet them and stuff. But I'm not all like nuzzle my face into the face of a dog and just be like mush, 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 mush. I'm more that way. Actually, no, I don't mush my face into cat faces either, but I don't think they would let you do that. I think my personality, the way I am, just very much matches up with the way cats are. So a lot of people who don't like cats, it's because they're very aloof, they like their own space, they're not all on your face, and that's exactly what I like about them. Like, my cat right now is right beside me. He's in my other chair. He is in my presence, and I enjoy him being there. And even when he wants attention, he comes, he sits near me or slightly on me, but he's not all in my face, licking my face and just being like love, 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 love all the time. So yeah, that I find that I'm like that, and that's how cats are, and so we get along very well. I am definitely a cat person. Dennis and Avery, I think, are definitely more dog people, so I could see in the future us getting a dog, and I will love that dog, and I will take care of that dog because come on, let's be honest, I will probably be doing most of the work. But I think, like, Avery would be all up in the face of dog. Like, she's that kind, because she's just that type of person too, right? So yeah, they're more dog people. I could see us getting a dog, but I would be completely content with cats. Speaking about pets, growing up, I had a pet rat, and her name was Dana, and I loved her, and I would absolutely get another one. I've talked about this before, where I've talked about it with Dennis, how I think it would be a great pet for Avery right now. He has just not going to happen. So I did have one growing up. She was awesome. Rats are awesome pets. They're so smart. They're so affectionate. They're so, like, they're so intelligent. And yeah, I absolutely would get another rat if I could, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Okay, number 3, I cannot nap. I cannot nap if my life depended on it. I have to be very, 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 very ill in order to sleep during the day. I remember when I was pregnant, I couldn't nap. I remember after Avery was born, and everybody's like, oh, when the baby naps, make sure you nap too. Couldn't nap. I just don't nap. I know a lot of people, that's just a thing that's part of their day. Can't do it. I could feel tired, but if I go lie down to nap, I will just be staring into space. I cannot nap. Number 4, I think last time I did my 10 random facts, I talked about some of my favorite movies, and this kind of goes along with that in terms of, like, genre. I cannot do any kind of horror movies. Cannot watch them. Not, like, it's not even an option. It's not even an option. My brain will just hold on to things, scenarios, storylines, situations, like specific, it will just hold on to them, and I will think about things over and over and over and over and over again. So, like, when I'm watching movies and shows, it has to be something very light, very, like, rom-coms, comedies, like light, you know, I can do action and stuff like that, but it has to be very light so that when I watch it and it's done, it's out of my brain, because things that are too heavy or too scary or whatever will just, my brain, like, I'm a worrier, my brain will just take every little part of that and just be like, well, what if that happened, or what if, yeah, I can't do that. So number 5, when I was in elementary school, I learned to play the trombone. We had a band, and I forget if it was a requirement or if it was optional, but I joined the little school thing, and I remember wanting to do clarinet, but all the space had been taken, and so I think the only room left was a trombone, and I was like, alright, I'll do the trombone. And so I learned how to play trombone, but I will be completely honest with you, I sucked at it. I was not a good trombone player. I was never able to understand music. Like, I could not look at the notes and know that's what, like, this note meant this. Like, I knew the positions on the trombone. I knew how to do the sound that went with those positions, but in terms of, like, music, in terms of the songs that we were doing, I would have to write down on each little note which position I was doing. I couldn't just look at a note and know. So that didn't last very long. I think that was like grade 7 or 8. By the time I got to high school, I think I tried it for maybe half a term, and I was like, nope, I am not meant to be a trombone player. Number 6. Okay, so my guilty pleasure chip flavor. We don't tend to eat a lot of chips. I don't buy them. We don't have them in the house. But, like, when I was younger, or if we're out somewhere and, you know, you're just like, oh, I just feel like, you know, a little treat or something. My guilty pleasure chip flavor is sour cream and bacon. I don't know if everybody has that flavor, but that's the one I get, is sour cream and bacon. It's so good. Number 7, I am pro pineapple on pizza. I think this is a very dividing thing. Either you're like pro Hawaiian pizza or you're like absolutely not. I am pro Hawaiian pizza, especially if there's like nice big chunks of genuine bacon on there, not just like little, you know, artificial bacon bits. I like ham is nice too, but like if there's bacon on there, I'm all for that. Number 8, I share my birthday with Will Ferrell. I encourage you to go online and see who you share your birthday with. I thought that was, I was like, oh, I'm good with that. Number 9, I had absolutely horrible teeth growing up. When I was in grade, I think 6, I think I got my braces. I had to have 7 teeth taken out. I had 4 regular teeth taken out, plus 3 wisdom teeth. Bonus fact for you, I only had 3 wisdom teeth. Don't know where the 4th one went. But I had to have all those teeth removed in order to make room for all the brace work and to move everything around. And I had to wear those braces for 7 years. It was difficult, but thank you, Mom and Dad, because yes, I am much happier with my teeth now. We are, fingers crossed, we are watching Avery's mouth. Dennis has fine teeth, like he doesn't have great teeth, but he didn't need any work done. I had horrible teeth, and we are watching her teeth right now. They are quite the mishmash because she has been losing so many baby teeth well before the average age. So she's already lost 8 teeth, and I know there's other kids her age who are still on like their 2nd lost tooth. So she has all these adult teeth that are just coming through, and I'm hoping that as her little head grows and as her little mouth grows, things will even out. But poor child if she ends up having to wear braces for 7 years like I did. And then the last question, or the last random fact for you, has to do with personality tests. I don't know if you have ever done them. There's one called the Myers-Briggs. I think that's a fairly popular personality test. And then there's another one that I've done, which is the love languages test. Both of these are free quizzes that you can find online. So if you haven't done them, go look them up. They're just fun. It's kind of fun to learn about your personality. For the Myers-Briggs test, I am an ISFJ, which is not surprising. And the first one stands for like the introvert part. I found it funny because after I did the test, you get different percentages for the different categories. I was like 100% introvert, like 100%, which is absolutely true. And then for the love languages, I found this, and this is an interesting little test too. It just has to do with how you work within relationships, not just like spousal relationships, but just any kind of relationship in your life. And there's 5 different love languages, and depending on which one you are will determine how you express that you care for someone, and also how you see that someone cares for you. So I made Dennis do this one as well, and I knew he would get a completely different answer than I do, because we definitely express things differently. But my love language is acts of service. So basically, if I care about you and I'm going to show that I care about you, I will show that by doing things. Whereas there are other languages that are like, so one of them is like words of affirmation, so you'll say things. One of them is gifts, so little gifts here and there. There's affection, and there's quality time is one. But I am acts of service, and I'm pretty sure I had 0 for affection. I am a prickly cactus. Another bonus fact for you. I'm a prickly cactus. I'm not an affectionate person. I can tell you right now, if Avery did this quiz, her affection would be like very close to 100%. She is super affectionate, but Dennis is also more so. But yeah, it's just very interesting. I might link to those quizzes below if you haven't done them and you just want to do something for fun. But yeah, let me know down below a random fact about you, or any response to maybe one of my random facts, something that is how that applies to yours. But that is it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you have a fantastic weekend and get lots of crafting done, and I will talk to you soon.